Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm just going to be having a chat about a story that's been in the news lately. It's a bit of a controversial one, but I think it'll definitely impact those of you doing research in Australia and most particularly in Western Australia. But it could even be a wider issue than that. I don't know if this is impacting other places in the world too. So this is about the removal of the word Aboriginal from certificates. That is official births, deaths and marriages documents. Before we continue with the video, I just wanted to remind you to hit the like and subscribe buttons if you're new. Okay, so back to the story. So Western Australian bureaucrats have decided that the word Aboriginal is offensive and therefore they've actually been redacting it from their official documents. This actually only came to light last month when a family historian named Gary Smith contacted the ABC about it. He'd found that the word Aboriginal had been whited out from his great-grandmother's death certificate. So when he contacted Western Australian births, deaths and marriages, they told him that the word had been removed because it was an offensive term. So of course, like genealogists, historians, archivists, and just everyone is kind of surprised and shocked by this because we didn't really know that the government had the power to remove terms that it found to be offensive, and even more so that they would actually be doing so. So I think there's actually a number of problems with this whole story. So for starters, the word Aboriginal, as far as I'm aware, it's not an offensive term. It's not a bad or offensive word in and of itself. Okay, so the next thing to consider is the way that it's being used. And you could possibly argue, this is probably what the Western Australian government have been arguing, that the use of it on a certificate like that is possibly offensive in that certificates for white people don't have the term white written on them or anything like that. So you'd say, well, why did they need to write that on the certificate? But I don't think it matters. So even if historically it was used in a way that maybe it shouldn't have been, maybe that was an offensive way to use it, even if it was offensive, and this wouldn't be the first offensive term to be used on any kind of official records. These terms also turn up for white people, like terms that we wouldn't maybe bother to put on certificates nowadays. For example, there's plenty of birth certificates that I've come across with the word illegitimate on them. Nowadays, if somebody had a baby out of wedlock, they wouldn't dream of putting the term illegitimate on the birth certificate. However, that being said, it is useful in a historical sense when you get that certificate and it has that word on it, and you then know that this mother isn't married. So it's something that you can use for your research. So just in the same way, having the word Aboriginal on the certificate, well, even though it's not something that we would necessarily do now, it's so useful when you're doing research. So whether or not you are aware of Aboriginal ancestry in your family, it's beneficial to have it there either way. So if you are aware of your ancestry, having it there just confirms that you've got the right certificate, you're on the right track, and you should maybe also consider other resources that have historical records for Aboriginal people. Now, the other alternative is you don't know that you have Aboriginal ancestry and you get that certificate and suddenly you do know that, and that's also not offensive. That is just finding out something about your ancestors, something interesting, something to learn about. So if you didn't know about your family's Aboriginal background, that's now something that you've learned and something that you can explore and then possibly also delve into other records knowing that Aboriginal ancestry. But regardless, I think either way, saying that the word in itself is offensive is offensive, to me anyway. To me that implies that there's something bad about it, something shameful or embarrassing. Now it turns out that Western Australia are not the only state to have done this. So the Northern Territory have not removed the word Aboriginal from certificates, but they have removed the term half-caste. And once again, maybe it's not the kind of term that we would use now or that we would write on a certificate. However, I don't think it's a bad thing to come across in historical document because once again, it could put you on the right path. Like if you weren't aware of your ancestors background, then reading the word half caste is going to give you some kind of insight on maybe where to look. Okay, it's a weak kind of word, it doesn't tell you exactly what they were half and half of, but it's something that's giving you a little hint as to where you might want to look next. So the Northern Territory aren't so much in hot water about this because apparently it's okay to remove the word half caste. And I see their point. They said that really it's not based in any fact, like the person writing the record made the assumption of half caste, like they must have just gone off the skin color or something. And so they argued that removing the term is fine because it's not a guarantee of being half and half of anything. It's just a guess based on how the person looked. However, even a guess is something. It's a hint. I would always take it. And all of that aside, whether or not you find it offensive or not, these are historical documents. So when you purchase a certificate, you expect to get the original certificate, right? Like, as a family historian, I have purchased plenty of certificates, and if I felt like there was portions being whited out that I just couldn't see, I feel like I wasn't really getting my money's worth. Even if the terms on it are offensive, even if they're really bad, I still want to see them because I want to know what was there. And it's also a way to learn about our history. Like, even if it's an offensive thing, well, why do we find it offensive? Because we've moved forward and this is how things used to be. And so just burying it just is pretending that things didn't used to be like that. But all of that aside, the word Aboriginal is not offensive. Okay, so that's my opinion on this matter. I would definitely love to hear your thoughts, so let me know in the comments what you think about this. If you're concerned, you could contact the Western Australian Attorney General, but definitely be aware of what's on your certificates. You certainly want to get what you've paid for. And just another little thing to be concerned about is transcripts. So if somebody purchased a transcript of these certificates, then they would really have no clue. I would presume that the transcription agent would simply write what was written there, and if the word has been whited out, then they wouldn't include it. But that certainly kind of begs the question, would the transcription agent remove something that they found offensive? So if they're transcribing a document and they come across a word they find offensive, do they simply leave it out? I don't know. Like, I'm not going to accuse any of them of doing this because I don't know if this is a thing, but I didn't know that removing information from certificates was a thing. So it's just something that we should all probably be aware of when we're purchasing certificates and transcripts. Please let me know what you think down in the comments below because I'm really curious what other people think about this, and I feel like we should be mad about it. It's our history and people are erasing it. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your research, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!